I'm learning TFT, back with another video where I'm going to go through my learning process, share it with you so that I can learn more effectively and you can benefit in the process as well. In this video, I'm going to go through a detailed analysis of items in 1424. We're going to go through as much as I can of normal items, artifacts, radiant, emblems, figure out who are the best item holders, what are the best slams early, mid, late game, how to transition the items between your early game item holders, mid game, late game, and just have a much more comprehensive, holistic pictures of how to use items as a resource, especially given that the new patch is going to be out for a while. This analysis will hopefully be more helpful. And following the last video, it seemed like people enjoyed seeing my research process. So I'm going to be doing a detailed analysis and research from scratch. So if you want to jump to the results of that research, check out the timestamps below. In addition, in my last video, I talked about some philosophy psychology related to a viewer that messaged me, and a lot of people thought that that was helpful. So I'm going to keep including a brief, I don't know always how brief, snippet of ideas because I love reading philosophy, psychology. I've done executive coaching and continue to do for startup founders. And a big part of me going into coaching was learning how to be a better father to my kids. And in that process, when I was learning how to be a coach, I did a deep dive into a lot of reading. So I read something like over 1,000 books across 3 years. And I captured a lot of those ideas from books. Just like you see me do a lot of analysis in TFT and capture it in this Roam research database that you can see on the screen. But I also had a very deliberate practice with reading my books, accumulating all of the notes and connecting them all. So now I can use that database of knowledge and apply it to some of the viewer comments, apply it to TFT, how it can help you become a better TFT player and have that help you become more successful, quote, successful at life. So with that said, I'm going to first jump into some viewer comments that I got from my last video, talk about some ideas related to that, and then I'll do the detailed items analysis, research from the data, and then I'll do a summary at the end, and we'll see if I've started to post a little bit on my Twitter. So we'll see if I have time to produce the summary results of all of this research and try to make it into a very concise visual form that I can post on Twitter. So we'll see if we can do all of that. I'm starting this video a little bit later than I would have wanted to this morning because I had to actually bring my daughter to the emergency room. But I'll leave that story for a little bit when I get to this part because I actually think it's relevant to some of the viewer comments. So yeah, let's dive into it. So we'll start with the viewer comments. Ashley mentioned from my last video that as a transgender person, I've faced many challenges navigating a world that wasn't made for me. I got a bad role. And a big part of TFT and why I think it's such a beautiful game is it teaches you how to handle low rolls. You have to play the cards that you're dealt. You have to play the board that you're dealt, augments that you're dealt, whether or not you get a victor or not. At the end of the day, you don't always control whether you can high roll or low roll, but you can control whether you can maximize your placement given the role that you are dealt, right? Cameron said, I'm in my early 20s and was recently diagnosed with, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Meniere's disease, which has brought significant challenges in my life. I managed to reach GM last set and hope to achieve Challenger this season. I agree that the process of improving at TFT can serve as an apt metaphor for life. And so my thoughts go out to you, Cameron. It's tough that you have to deal with this low roll in life. But just like Ashley was saying, you don't get to choose the low rolls that you're dealt, but you can choose how you respond to it. And it sounds like you're in a good place that hopefully this challenge will make you stronger. Silva said, I'm a Brazilian psychologist having a hard time focusing on my career since it's not really valuable to be a health professional there. And it's helped to think about his choices, perception. And I responded saying, I've gone to therapy for, wow, how long now? I believe over 15 years now. And my wife's been in therapy for over 10 years. We actually believe in therapy so much that we have found therapists for both of our kids. My son is 8, my daughter is 5. And it's been extremely helpful. We actually rebranded therapy in our household for our kids. We don't call it therapy. We don't call them psychologists. We call them brain doctors. And we say that what they're doing, because both our kids are into Star Wars, we basically teach them that brain doctors are teaching them how to do Jedi training. Like, Jedi training is a way that you can optimize how you use your mind so that whatever challenges life throws your way, you are better prepared for it. That even when one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars was I forget the name of the movie. It was the fourth one when they went back to Anakin and Qui-Gon Jinn, and Qui-Gon was fighting against Darth Maul, and they were in the middle of a Star Wars battle, or in a lightsaber battle, and a shield wall came down between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon in that moment kneeled down and began meditating, and he was taking deep breaths, right? And so that type of Jedi training is so useful in life, in TFT, when you're low rolled, if you're playing Ken Baron and someone griefs you. That was some of the feedback that I got after my Ken Baron video, which is going to be pretty common. Someone full sells their board. You have 4 Ken Baron in on 2-5. That actually happened to me yesterday. And how do you handle that situation? Because that can be the difference between you going fast 8 versus salvaging a 5th or 6th or even a 7th out of that situation, right? And that there are so many situations like that in life as well. And that's why I believe therapy is so valuable, because it teaches us how to understand our psychology so that when the inevitable struggle comes our way, we're ready to handle it. We understand how to calm down, how to make better choices instead of letting our anger, our regret, our worry, our anxiety take control of us, paralyze us, cause us to run away, cause us to fight, and allows us to be human, right? When we let our anger and animals' instincts take over us, we become like animals again. We're not thinking with our rational brain. We're thinking with our emotional brain. But when you have learned Jedi training, when you have gone to therapy, you know how to connect your emotional brain with your rational brain so that you can actually make logical, rational choices that are also guided by your emotions, and use your emotions as a fuel that is for a positive force as opposed to a negative, destructive force. WKL guy said, I got laid off 3 months ago trying to find another software engineering position. This job market has been tough. And I talked about this previously as well. Sorry to hear that you're having this struggle. As AI continues to evolve, it's going to put more and more people out of jobs. And actually, there was an future of AI with some kind of experts in the field that were talking recently, speaking to the youth of today. Where basically one of them was saying you should no longer actually prioritize learning how to code. Although one other person disagreed with them. And I was actually a computer science major at Berkeley, so I have experience with this, which is the expert was arguing that in the future, and I believe this is not that far away, probably within 5 to 10 years, AI will easily replace jobs that are about information manipulation, including engineering software engineering because it could just do it better than humans can, which is another reason that my wife and I really prioritize Jedi training for our kids, because I believe one of the last skills that AI will be able to replace is about human interaction, right? That the soft skills are going to be really hard for AI to replace. But on this front, as AI continues to evolve, this is like in TFT when you have new patches, new sets, you got to relearn. You got to learn new skills. You got to let go of what you thought you knew and figure out how to adapt to the new environment. And I'm not saying right now that software engineering's not valuable. I think it's actually extremely valuable if you can learn how to leverage AI and take advantage of the decreased costs that it takes to produce something of value. But the main thing here is that, and let me actually add to this comment because I think it connects. Poulat said, I'm an AI startup entrepreneur. Nothing's working out. I'm 28 and achieved nothing and can't figure out how to make money. So my response to this is like, and he actually said that he feels like there's people criticizing him for being a failure. My response here is that it's kind of like if you, let's say you were at a GM or challenger level last set, and I actually had a comment complaining about this. And with the new set, it doesn't fit your playstyle. You're in a new environment. You get laid off, or your startup's not working out. And maybe life was good before you were, it clicked last patch, but it doesn't now. You can let the new patch or new set define you. You can let the criticism get to you. You can let your LP feel like, oh, that's a reflection of your identity and your worth. Or you can say, hey, this is another challenge that I can overcome. It's a hard problem that I can solve. If I learn and grow from this, then I will get stronger. So I want to connect that to some ideas. Here's some quotes that I really like. So on the topic of challenge, James Allen said, circumstance does not make the man, it reveals him to himself. So this is saying that you are, instead of being a victim, so if circumstance did make the man, it would mean that we are a victim of our environment and our circumstances. We do not have choice and free will. Although that's like a whole nother topic. I actually believe that the world is deterministic and we have the illusion of free will. But for our purposes, the illusion of free will is all we need. That's like a whole nother subject. But rather, circumstance reveals him to himself. That how we respond to challenge reveals your character. It does not make your character. That you have choice and agency in being able to respond instead of being a victim. You can play the hero instead of the victim. And if you watch any of the superhero movies out there, right? It's not that the hero became a hero instantly and it was easy. They had to overcome extreme hardship. And it's that through that process of the hero's journey of conquering that hardship that makes them into a hero. That's how they reveal themselves, right? Martin Luther King Jr. said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. And so for my kids too, I don't want them to live a life of comfort and convenience. We want them to have challenge and controversy because that is what creates your character. It's what reveals you to yourself. Theodore Roosevelt, American president, said, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. And so what Teddy Roosevelt is saying here is that it's easy for there to be critics, and you see this all the time in like TFT, in life. whenever someone fails, they get all kinds of people, all the haters coming out and blaming. Or even if you just watch a TFT stream, there's so many people that want to backseat drive and like criticize the streamer who, you know, this happens to like Dish Soap and like Setsuko. It's like no, the credit does not belong to the person that's the critic. It belongs to the person actually in the arena, the person who's actually trying and failing. And at least they're daring greatly, regardless of their outcome, instead of being a passive observer on the side who just wants to criticize others so that they can feel better about themselves. That's why I always, and my wife, one of my wife's just like heroes in life was Kobe Bryant. Because Kobe had so many critics, so many haters, and he learned how to create a Black Mamba mentality where he channeled that energy of the hate and figured out how to use that as fuel to drive him. And if you can figure out how to do that, not only will you be a better TFT player, but you'll be able to succeed so much more in life. Opportunity related to challenge. The Chinese use 2 brushstrokes to write the word crisis. One brushstroke stands for danger, the other for opportunity. In a crisis, be aware of the danger, but recognize the opportunity. Meister Eckhart, I believe he was a religious writer from a few hundred years ago, said that the perfection of virtue is born in struggle. Nietzsche said, one must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. And Nassim Taleb said, anti-fragility is beyond resilience or robustness. The resilient resists shock and stays the same. The anti-fragile gets better. And so what all of these ideas are saying is that when you are faced with challenge, when you are faced with struggle, what all of these viewer comments are talking about here, right? Life is going to throw curveballs your way. You're going to have low rolls. You're going to have crises and struggle and chaos in your life. Yes, those are going to be hard, but also recognize that there is an opportunity in those challenges, because it is through the challenge, through the chaos, through the struggle that allows you to grow, to allow you to give birth to a dancing star, to allow you to get better. If you were not faced with those struggles, you would remain not necessarily weak, but you would remain as you were before. You would not have had such an immense opportunity to grow. And the same is true for TFT. And anytime you get a bot 4, you can always ask yourself, instead of saying, oh, I got low rolled, blame the game, blame Mordog, blame someone else outside of yourself. Instead of saying that, you can ask yourself, what's the opportunity for me to learn here? What's the opportunity for me to grow? The big picture. So I want to connect the challenge and the opportunity to looking at the big picture. Arthur Schopenhauer, a German philosopher, I really enjoy his work, said, the scenes in our life resemble pictures in a rough mosaic. They are ineffective from close up and have to be viewed from a distance if they are to seem beautiful. Joseph Campbell, a philosopher, said, when you look back on your life, it looks as though it were a plot. But when you are into it, it's a mess, just one surprise after another. Then later, you see it was perfect. And so what Schopenhauer and Campbell are saying here is that when you have these challenges in the short term, you low roll in a TFT game, it can seem overwhelming. It can feel like you can't see, like the pictures seem really rough. You can't tell what's going on. It looks like if it was a plot, it's a mess, right? But later on, when you can gain the opportunity that comes out from it, when you gain perspective, like Ashley, right? Like going through her experience has taught her how to make the best of a low roll. She's learned how to have more patience and reach a better state of mind and a more fulfilling life. That was not the case when she was younger, when everything seemed a lot messier. You don't necessarily always see the opportunity when you're going through the chaos. right? When you're going through the struggle, you don't always see the big picture, but it's only later, once you're able to gain more appreciation from it, once you're able to get a lot stronger from those challenges, that you then see the beauty and the perfection of what you went through, what you had to experience. And so I want to connect this with a GIF that I've always resonated with. Right? So this kid thinks he's gonna drown, and he's panicking. And he comes in, his mom comes in, or some grown-up, stands him up. He didn't realize that he could stand there the whole time, right? His mind was freaking out. He didn't have Jedi training. He didn't know how to calm down. And he realized that he could just stand up the whole time. And he's like scratching his ear afterwards, like, what just happened, right? And I want to share this because it's actually similar to what happened to my daughter this morning. My daughter woke up, or I was woken up this morning by my son saying my daughter was, her stomach was hurting a ton. And she was just inconsolable. She was basically like this right here. It's like, oh, my tummy hurts, like tears flooding down her face. And I was like trying to gauge how I could help her. It's like, do you need to use the potty? Do you need to eat? She has asthma, and she's like recovering from being sick. So it's like, okay, I can give you some albuterol, your inhaler. Do you want we have like a little heat pad that she could put on her stomach. Do you want me to rub your tummy? Do you want me to just give you a hug? And she was just like saying no to everything. She's like, no, 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 no. Like nothing would work. So eventually my wife like came out of a early morning call. It's like, all right, maybe we should just bring her to the ER. So I brought her to the ER and we got to the parking lot and she's like feeling tired and she's like, oh, maybe I want to sleep. I was like, okay, do you want to try sleeping or you want to try going to see if the doctor can help you? She's like, I want to sleep for a little bit. And then she wasn't sleeping. She was like, Daddy, can we play a game? I was like, all right, does that mean you're feeling better? That's what I was thinking. And I didn't actually say that because she was so inconsolable. So I was like, okay, let's play a game and see if that helps her feel better. We were just sitting in the parking lot at the hospital. And we played the game for like 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden she was like, I need to poop. So we get out of the car, and I have to carry her into the hospital, and I have a hernia that I'm getting surgery for in March. I'm not supposed to like carry more than like 10 or 20 pounds right now. And she like can't walk. She's like basically like this kid, like, oh, it hurts too much. So I basically have to carry her. She gets to the bathroom, she poops, and all of a sudden she's like feeling better. And then she's still saying my stomach hurts. So she was saying my pain's a 9 out of 10. She poops, it goes down to a 5 out of 10. And then she's like, my tummy is still hurting. I was like, could it be because you're hungry? Like right now I'm hungry and my tummy is at 5 out of 10 because I'm hungry. And she's like, maybe. So we get back to the car, give her some food, and then it basically goes down to like a 0 right after. And so I only bring up this story like this, not to say that every challenge that we face is as trivial as this, but rather to say that any challenge that we face, particularly given our youth and our lack of ability to see the big picture, will feel like this. And we won't know until we get to the other side and see the big picture that, like, no, we can stand up. Like my daughter now realizes, and my daughter's had plenty of times in the past where her stomach is hurt, and we ask her, do you need a poop? And she can't connect the dots. Like she is has been unable to realize the connection between the sensation in her body and the intellectual, like, realization that her body needs to poop. Like, and then on top of that, my wife and I, like, we sometimes nudge that kind of hard, so then she resists it even more. And so, you know, whenever we go through this stuff, it's like It's obviously a lot worse than what happened to my daughter and the kid in this GIF, but you can see that as you go through the challenges, you get stronger as a result of it. All right, so that's my spiel for today. So let's actually go into item analysis. So I'm going to start with questions, a bunch of questions that I want to answer in this analysis. And the reason with starting with questions in any analysis is that Voltaire said, judge a man by his questions rather than by his answers. And David and Carol said, open-ended questions widen the scope of conversation by generating options, new perspectives, or new ways of thinking about a situation. So oftentimes questions are more valuable than answers because they allow you to inhabit more of a beginner's mindset. So that's why this is like kind of my approach here. All right. So I want to answer, who are the best early game item slams, mid game items, late game items? How do you transition? Where are the best artifacts, radiant emblems, support, and who holds them? I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get through all this because I'm starting to get hungry too. It's 11:30 right now. Usually I eat at noon, and I was hoping to get started on this earlier, but I had to bring my daughter to the hospital. So it is what it is. So we'll see how far we get. I at least want to get through all of the normal items and maybe the artifacts, since I think that's like gonna cover 90% of our games. So let's get started. So normal items, early, oops, mid, and late. And I want to figure out, all right, so I want to figure out the stats and the best holders. Let's see, I'm gonna swap the sides on this. Close this. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay. There we go. All right. So Shojin. Let me change this to master so we have a larger sample size. Let's do diamond. All right, this is diamond plus and analysis today. Normal items, Shojin, 4.3, 14% win rate, 73% frequency, and then stage 2. I'm going to do stage 2, stage 4, and stage 6. So this is basically early game, mid game, late game. Stage 2 has a 59% win rate, 10% play rate. And the best item holders are Vex, 56% win rate. Renata, 46, though this is probably Renata 1 most of the time. Lux, 67%. Morgana, 62. Wow, Ziggs. I haven't really played around Ziggs too much. This tells me Ziggs 1 is probably a pretty good item holder, because this is probably Renata 1 here. Maddie, 60. and Zyra 64. I'm not going to go into the 3 costs as much. All right, so I'm going to kind of split this. So the sorcerers are going to be your best early game stage 2 slams. So S is going to be, this is like a lot. Shojin, Lux, Zyra can let you streak early game. All right, stage 4. Silco 56. This stage 4 is a 52% win rate. Renata 51. Zoe 53. Timer 55. And Ziggs falls off a lot by this point. Ezreal 7. Jinx 1 here, 56. Actually really strong. Is that better than a Zoe 2 here? Probably not. Okay, so S is gonna be Silco. Nada. Timer. Okay. And stage 6, 53%. Slightly higher than stage 4. Probably because L? Alright, Silco 59. Jinx 58. Zoe 55. Renata 51. This is probably Renata 3. Alzahar, Caitlyn, Blanc. Mel's 49, so it's actually not even that good. Jace though. I'm gonna try to figure out how to simplify this analysis. This is gonna take too long. All right. So that's Shojin. PG. Mormogs. I'm gonna focus on carry items. All right, stage 2, 60%. Stage 4, 2, stage 6. So higher up front than Shojin, but lower in stage 6. Maddie 64. Stana 52. Raven 59. Nocturne 59. Wow, Ezreal. Probably Ezreal 1. It's kind of like Ziggs here. You play around that more. Okay. Even Gangplank. This is likely a Gangplank one. Zeri. Violet. I didn't realize there were so many good IE slams early. Okay, that covers like most of the high frequency ones. Stage 4. Corki. Ezreal. Stana. Twitch. Nocturne 55. They say the 3 costs fall off a cliff. Jinx, if he can find an early Jinx. Early Jace. Early Caitlyn. Vessa's like okay with it, like not great. Also, is Ambessa is Mel's mom, right? Yeah. Okay. Page 6. Corki 50. Jinx. Which this is just 80 does not cap well unless you're going with the 5 costs. Or yeah, even Nocturne falls off. Chris 3 can like scale pretty well. This is probably Jeep Gangplank 3 is my guess. Okay. I'm not gonna... I feel like this frequency is not very viable, but okay, I'll put it here. Alright. Man, this video is gonna take too long. I'm just gonna go through the high frequency carry items then. Alright, BT. $4.2, 15% win rate. I didn't include play rate here. 47% play rate, 41% play rate. Stage 2 has a 55% win rate, so the melee line's gonna have perform worse than the AP and AD lines in stage 2, but has a higher win rate than both of the other lines, so it caps out higher and has a better AVP. But early game's gonna be weaker. All right, so Violet 9. Nocturne with BT is super strong. Darius. I really have not been playing around Darius enough with BT. In fact, if you're playing, this seems to suggest that if you're playing the Violet line, you have a Darius 2 and a Violet 2, you should actually itemize the Darius first. Especially if you don't have 3 family. That makes sense. Rundle with BT. This is probably skewed towards trolling. But if you have a BT with like a second scrap item, 2 or 3 item Trundle that has 1 more item than your opponent, it probably explains why this is so high. I also basically stopped playing Camille after she was hard nerfed. Urgot. Kali. Aurelia is probably Blade Dancer. And Gangplank. 63. How is that compared to IE? 66. Okay, so yeah, backline still probably better. All right. So really this stage 255 is really actually skewed by a lot of people playing Violet, since that's the most common. But BT early slam seems like completely broken. Like if we compare just the S tier, 67, 69, 67. I mean, I guess they're all pretty good. Violet just doesn't seem to get good until you get at least 2 or 3 items. You have family in. I suspect this is also low because most of the time you don't have family, even if you have a Violet too. All right, stage 4, 53%. And Violet spikes. Yeah, so this is where Violet at this point, stage 4, you're basically at 3 stars, you have 3 items, and yeah, she's just really strong carry at that point. Vesa, 53, Nocturne, 52. Okay. I'll try to speed this up a bit. Stage 6. Oops. Stage 6. This. Oh, kind of fell off a cliff. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like, Violet, for the most part, if you don't have, like, a lot of pit fighters and family in, like, emblems, then one class is just gonna fall off a cliff, which is, you're playing more for top 4, with your mid game being really strong. You have a weaker early game with Violet, super strong mid game, weaker late game. And best Nocturne's also falling off at this point. But Savika, this is how you cap out with the family line. It's really around Vi and Savika. 6 or 8 pit fighter if you can. Mordekaiser. Oh. Warwick. Warwick just doesn't seem like worth itemizing. Echo 54. This is a Smeech 3, 72. This is probably heavily skewed by because you're not really playing Camille Ambusher reroll anymore. So this is probably skewed by Baron lines. I forgot to write down stage 6, 52%. Okay, stone play Julganle. JG. Four point three, 15, 46. Stage 2, 60%. Comparable to IE. Surprised crit has such a high win rate in the early game. Because usually you want more AP or AD to like magnify the crit. Vex 57, Lux 62, Ziggs 60. Really need to play around Ziggs more. And this is basically gonna be the same as like the Shojin holders. Morgana 64, really? Nada 51. Excuse me. Kali 56. Zyra 64. I'm surprised. Okay, I guess Shojin Lux better, but JG Zyra better than Lux. Early Cassiopeia 63. It's probably skewed by like if you're playing this, you probably have 3 Black Rose in. Powders 52. This is backline Swain 62. Nami 63. Kog'Maw, interesting, and basically a bunch of 3 costs. All right, I'm not gonna include all of those. I think part of the question I was trying to answer here is like, what are the best early game item slams, and we're gonna find that out based off of these stage 2 stats. But the item holders, so maybe a more effective way of doing this analysis is to figure out the stage numbers first and then go into the item holders, because this is taking too long. And I already actually had a version of this in that I did for a previous patch. So I'm gonna copy that as a template and fill that in here. Oh, 16, 24. All right, so by the way, you're getting more insight into how I do my research, which is I'm still trying to figure out the best process to do this research. Convert to table, sure. All right, Shojin. .3. Stage 2, 59. Stage 4, 52. Stage 6, 53. Win rate 14. Frequency 73. All right. Thieves Gloves 4.0, though this is going to be skewed by like just late game. Checked by late game. 5 costs, 6 costs being good with it. It's very good early game. Probably also skewed early game this by the augment that gives you a TG. 4 mogs, 4.3, 1354. Stage 2, 63. The flat HP is going to be really good for early game and decreases in value as you get to the late game, though suspect late game, yeah, Garen and Alawi, Mundo, all great holders. Infinity Edge. 4.3. 14% win rate. 47% frequency. By the way, let me know in the comments if I like input any of this data wrong. Stone plate 4.4. Stone plate's like is a pretty low AVP given how frequently it's played. At least relative to these other top items frequency played. 59, 51, 51. Especially because it's not good on Garen, because you want him in the middle between your other. Yeah, I think that's probably why. Like with Garen, you want Garen in the middle. With Alawi, he already has enough armor and MR, so you don't really want more on him. And then Mundo, you're usually playing with like Black Rose, so you're not. You have Scion, so you don't really solo frontline him. So like Stoneplate just seems like not a great item in this set. Not great on Garen slash Alawi. Mundo usually played with Scion, so not solo frontline. Okay, Jewel Gauntlet. Keep on forgetting to look at this first. 4.3, 15, 46. Stage 2, 60, stage 4, 51, stage 6, 53. Actually pretty good late game. Yeah, Silco really strong. Hand of Justice got nerfed last patch. Why is it still averaging a 4.2? 1536. Eight, 52, 51. Oh, Mordekaiser. It's like buffed by the 5 costs. Otherwise, it's pretty mid. Rageblade. .4, 12, 44. Yeah, pretty bad. Like this is like kind of comparable to Stoneplate stats. 61, 53, 49. It's basically good on. Yeah, I mean at this point it's like not really great. Twitch and Corki are just as 80 units just fall off. I actually play it with Zoe, probably like Zoe Shojin IE. It's actually quite surprising that Zoe's better than Corki and Twitch. That true in stage 7 as well? Wow, yeah. That's really surprising. Okay, redemption. Ah, why do I keep clicking in? Can I see? Can't see win rate here, right? Yeah. All right, redemption. 4.1, 15, 30. Stage 2, 67, 55, 51. It's gonna be better on Garen. Garen's gonna be in the middle. And then Alawi, because he has so much resist, really benefits from that. Makes sense. Sunfire. 4.2, 14, 35. Stage 2. 66, 52, 51. Giant Slayer. I might need to split this video into multiple parts. Giant Slayer 4.0. Really good on Jinx. Not, oh, Victor too. Victor can use both the AD and AP. Asher. It's good on Mordekaiser late, yeah. And Silco. You want attack speed on Silco. Shojin, Silco, or Shojin, Asher. Dragon Claw 4.3. 13. 32. Archangel. D9. 4. 50. Wow. So just it's probably yeah, quite strong stage 4, stage 5, but falls off a cliff. So basically Archangel's more of a top 4 play. Strong in the mid game, but weak in the late game. So fights probably just don't last long enough. Unless you have a Victor. Like I bet an Archangel with Victor is probably pretty good. But then you could say anything with a Victor is pretty good. 4.2, 14, 8. Just do this 53, 51. Yeah, Savika is really the cap out for Violet. But Savika's stats are probably also like skewed by Baron. Right, who's the best red buff late game? The AD units. Yeah, AD units that have AoE damage and that want attack speed. What is this? Ionic Spark. Spark really good on Mundo. That speaks to more so Silco being a better carry than Heimer late game. Edge of Night seems, I believe is Violet's best item. 3.9, super good. Best AVP so far. 51, 53, 52. Still 47 for Violet. Oh, it's Mordekaiser with Edge of Night's completely broken. Very good with Mbessa as well. Win rate 18. Sterak's or 16, 19. Good game, all the usuals. Bramble's early game is like really strong. It's gonna be skewed by the gold augment, but most damage in the early game is AD, so that's also why it's gonna be stronger in the early game. Guardbreaker. These lower play rate ones are gonna be a little bit more skewed as well in the data. Asa did a good analysis of it that I'm not gonna rehash here. Quite good on Jinx. Crown Guard. Stage 2, 64, 52, 51. Good on Rumble and Mordekaiser. Static Shiv. This was skewed last set because of the charms. 4.0. In terms of play rate, it's like 16% versus 28% Spark. I guess tier is just very hard to get. Still very high early game win rate. Yeah, very good with Black Rose. Gunblade. Very good on Mordekaiser, Rumble. Not so good otherwise. Rabadon. Adaptive. Adaptive, you pretty much want to just use on frontliners in the late game. 16-13. I missed Bloodthirster. Hello. Morello Victor. Very strong, makes sense. $16-14. Compared to red buff, slightly higher win rate. Even Shroud. $61, $55, $50. This is with family. I mean, this does not surprise me. The 80 lines all fall off. Quicksilver. Silver Mordekaiser and Sabika. Blue buff. Not even. Oh. Jinx blue buff. I have not been playing Jinx blue buff. I'm playing Rebel line. I guess if you were kind of playing towards timer with like Sentinels, and then you hit an early Jinx, you could just pivot to Rebels. I would have thought Mel with blue buff would have been stronger. Deathblade, Jinx. Like basically the 80 lines is just Jinx mostly in the end game with Rebels. That's not going to be your primary carry, so you don't want to slam 80 items. Nobody plays Runons. Like not even good on Jinx because Jinx wants to cast. Can't even see Jinx here. Okay, let's sort this. All right. Let's see if this helps us answer some questions. Early game slams. So I think the analysis we did here does help us get an idea of at least the categories. So it's basically, this is AP carry, AD carry, melee carry. And it can tell us who's good, like kind of across this at a transition. Best artifacts. Okay, let's do the artifacts. Then we could do a summary. I don't think we're gonna get to all the other ones. And with the artifacts, okay. What's the best way for me to do this? Gold collector. I didn't realize gold collector was played so frequently. All right, I'm just gonna focus on like kind of the high play rate ones. Like, I'm not even gonna include Draven because you're not really. Okay, I guess that could be a Conqueror line too. Nocturne 3.325. Oh, Mordekaiser. Yeah, that makes sense. So I don't know how you get to that. I'm surprised the frequency for Mordekaiser is so high. Who are you playing around early game then for this stage? Oh, you play around Draven until you get to Mordekaiser, I guess. If okay, this is like a Conqueror line with RFC. I hadn't really considered that before. Violet. Fishbones. Yeah, Nocturne completely broken with this. I'm surprised Draven's so high with this. Okay. Spectral cutlass. That's Defiance. Not really going to include 5 costs since you can't really plan on playing around that consistently. Gonna put in like the really broken ones. These are gonna be 3 stars. Vander's gonna be Violet reroll. Singe is gonna be Renata reroll. I don't think Trister's gonna be that much to call out. I'm not gonna include Jinx. Oh, Mel with Manazane? Sounds gross. Snipers. Mordekaiser with Mittens pretty good too. Light Shield Crest. Blitzcrank? Really? That's broken on Vander. I guess this is like a Stone Plate Blitzcrank 3 with. Oh, you know what? This is Automata. Okay. This is like a 6 Automata Light Shield Crest Blitzcrank. That makes sense. It's Kog'Maw. Mordekaiser. Oh, Nocturne, interesting. I guess Nocturne attacks a lot and wants healing. Those play rate's pretty low. I don't know how reliable that one is. Violet. Silvermere, Violet 6. Meal still not that great. Wait. So grants immunity, stuns, and the holder's attacks stun the target for you. Wow. Victor with Silvermere. Oh, his attack speed's already locked at 0.5 anyway. Right? So then his laser just stuns. Okay, I mean, I think I have to include that here because that's... I would not have thought about that. Let me just double check that. For Machine Herald, is that how we... Oh, fixed attack speed is 0.5 attacks per second. He loses 0.1 attack speed, but for like stun across multiple units, that's crazy. Zhonya's. Oli. Agma. Powder. Alright, I'll include Mordekaiser just as a reference because it's really strong, but Lichbane. Mel. Surprised Zoe uses attack speed so well, like with Rage Blade and with Gamblers. If I get Gamblers, I should consider the Rebel Zoe line more. Powder with Deathfire. I guess he can take down, she can take down like super tanks. Like a solo frontline tank against Powder with this is... But it seems very circumstantial. Horizon Focus Victor. Buy stuns. I would have thought Elise would have been higher. Ending Despair. This looks broken on Blitzcrank. Shields and has a bunch of armor MR from Automata. Pretty strong on Vi too, though the sample size is kind of small. Volt Crusher Blitzcrank? More HP, armor, and AP. This like a low sample size thing seems odd. Raven. Seekers. It's actually pretty good. Seekers could make Akali, unlock Akali. Lighting Jewel. Melted dot damage? I guess it just splits it amongst a lot of different enemies. That's interesting though. And Powder. Powder does dot. And Malzahar. Ludens, a lot of overkill. I think the sample size on this is just so small. Almost there. Innervating Locket. Let's crank. Vander. These are going to be for 3 stars. Okay. Let's put this into visual format so it's easier to understand. All right, I think the lowest is like a what, 3.0? So top is, let's just say top is 3.0, and then we'll figure out from there. Maybe top row 3.0, here's like 3.5. First row 3.0, third row 5, fifth row 4.0, something like that. All right, let's try that. So gold collector, I'm not going to include 5 costs. Raven, this has, my guess this has to be a 3-star. Gold collector 3.9. Forky 4.0. Where's gold collector? Twitch 4.1. I'm not even gonna include 4.3. Nocturne 3.3. That's RFC. I say 3.0, 3.3 is like in the middle here. Raven 3.4. Oh, this is Fishbones, not RFC. Violet 3.1. I mean, 3.1 basically here. Spectral Cutlass Violet 3.3. Nocturne Spectral Cutlass 3.9. Third row, wait, 3.5, 3.7. Vive 4.0. Ollie. Not going to include Ambessa. Death's Defiance Violet 3.5. Right, is that right? Third row is 3.5, yeah. Nocturne 3.8. .8 is like here. Vi, not gonna include that. Violet, Suspicious Trench Coat. Ambessa. Enema Visage Vander. 3.3. Singed. 3.7. 3.5, 3.7. Anazane powder. .4. Was this 3.5? So 3.4 here. Silco Manazane 4.0. Oops. Nocturne Snipers Focus 3.2. Nocturne Snipers Focus 3.2. Mordekaiser Draven 3.7, 3.5, 3.7. Okay, right here, 3.7 be up here, but I'm just going to include Sniper's Focus here. Save some space. Violet 3.5 here, Mittens. Nocturne 3.9 here, Mittens. Vander 3.5, Light Shield. Where's Light Shield? Let's crank 3.5. Light Shield. This is probably higher if you have a 3-star. Wits and Kog'Maw 3.8. Wits and Nocturne 3.7. Close enough. Prowler's Claw. Nocturne, Violet 3.7. Prowler's Claw. Okay. Silvermere Victor 2.5. Silvermere Violet 3.6. Zonia's Akali 3.9. I'm just gonna put that here. Change the order though. Kog'Maw, Zonia's 4.0. Close enough. Powder 3.8. 3.8 would be around here. Pretty sure we're gonna run out of room here. Lichbane, Kog'Maw 3.7. Lichbane's actually the best one. Let me change the order of that. Lichbane Mel 3.1. Gambler's Blade, Kog'Maw 4.1. I'm just gonna move this down here. Raven also 4.1. Powder 3.4. Deathfire Grasp. Horizon Focus 5. Put that here. Horizon Focus Victor. Horizon Focus Twisted Fate. Let's crank. This is supposed to be 3.5, right? Running out of space. All right, I'm just gonna move this here. Let's crank. Unending Despair. By Unending Despair 3.7. Close enough. Infinity 3.8. here. Nocturne, not gonna include that. Blitzcrank 3.8. Hole Crusher. Raven Talisman 3.8. Kali 3. Where's the Kali? Okay. Seekers. Lighting Jewel Mel. Lighting Jewel Powder. Ludens Powder at 3.7. Ludens. Ludens, Akali 3.8. We're running out of space. All right, Twitch is coming down here. Then I'm just gonna do another Akali here. Ludens, Twisted Fate. I guess as you would really want that to be 3-star. Innervating Locket, Blitz 3.7. Where is Innervating Locket? Vander, Innervating Locket. Singed Mogul's Mail. I'm not even going to include that. Okay, cool. Finally. Okay. So now we can talk about conclusions, right? Let me link this. Anyone with the link? Okay. Performance by stage. And copy this. Best artifact item holders with legend. Okay. Let me actually post this to Twitter. Don't forget. Best item holders. Best artifact item holders. Put a link here. Okay. And then these are the best normal items by stage. 14.24. Okay. So now we talk about conclusions. All right. So we finished our research. We've done a detailed analysis of item performance by stage. We didn't get to do all of the item holders because it was taking too long. But we did get, for normal items that is, but we do our best artifact item holders. And I also posted these to my Twitter here at Learning TFT. So you can take a look at yourself. And I'm going to first talk about the items and just like kind of do a high level. So there's an augment for Bramble that may skew this, but most early game damage is 80. So that explains why Bramble is stronger early, but there's 80 weak comps weak late game. So it's a good tempo. Good for tempo, but not good for late game. So that's why the win rate is lower here. Static Shiv, very flexible, good damage early. Scales well into late game. Downside is you burn a tier. Thieves Gloves, very good early, have lots of good item holders later, but the downside is that you may not get 3 item carry as early. So it's good for tempo. Basically, these 3 are all really good for tempo. Adaptive is very flexible, but it's just not good for backline carry ever since they nerfed I think they nerfed the mana gen. Better for tanks late game, but just inferior, like stage 6 inferior. Guard Breaker play rate is quite low, quite flexible. Good mid game and high win rate. I suspect this is like probably skewed due to the 4 and 5 costs. Let's take a look. Guard Breaker. Corki. So it's good on like AoE damage units and units that benefit from both AD and AP. Redemption, very good on stage 4, interestingly. I guess that's the stage where if you get your 2-star tank, but the enemy doesn't have enough burst, can be really strong. It's also very strong on Sentinels, because they already have a lot of armor magic resist. Runons is like, this is like the worst item in the game, basically, I think, right now. Horrible. Worst item late game. No great holders. Morello. Very good late game. You need anti-heal. Let's see. Val. Nothing to really write home about. Red buff. Good for attack speed units. Sunfire. Good for tempo. Surprisingly not good in stage 4. Wait, what? I think this was... Oh, these notes are not correct for these. Okay, this was for Stoneplate. Where's Stoneplate? Oh, here, down here. And this was for Rageblade. So Sunfire is good for tempoing, but later game Morello and Red Buff, or no, Morello has a higher AVP. Red Buff has same AVP as Sunfire, but both Red Buff and Morello will have a higher win rate than Sunfire. And that's because Sunfire is on your front line is more likely to die earlier in the fight. And they have the same stage 2 win rate. So Sunfire is like, if you want a tempo, it's good, but preferably you can get a backline anti-heal spreader. Deathblade can be strong in the early game, but falls off late game because AD is just not as strong right now. Gunblade, good stage 4, not great late game. Brown Guard, kind of meh. Last Whisper, AD is not great. Giant Slayer, solid, and Victor can hold Giant Slayer really well because he can converts the AD and AP into AP. Steadfast Heart seems like it's just not as good as some of the other tank units. Like, okay. Warmog's actually Steadfast better than Warmog's in stats here. But Warmog is better late game, 51% here. Rabadon's win rate is actually quite high. I guess it gives you the damage amp, so that's pretty good. Dragon Claw, better in stage 6 than Bramble, because most of the late game meta comps are AP. Not as good early as Bramble here. So if you're gonna slam Declaw, you probably do it like in end of stage 3, 4-ish. Or sorry, end of stage 4, 5-ish. Since that's when a lot of the burst comps with AP come online, is after they get like their 2-star forecast, like Silco. Edge of Night with like Violet and Bessa, really good. Late game units like Mordekaiser, extremely strong. So this is like Edge of Night has like one of the strongest win rates in the game. Edge of Night, very good. Even Shroud, AD is just not very good right now. So stage 6, it really falls off. Rageblade, pretty much just bad all around, even though it has like 44% play rate. Because it's mostly AD carries. And the AD carries don't scale well into the late game. They're not really meta right now. The one surprise was actually Zoe here. Zoe with Rageblade is actually decent. And most likely you want to pair that with Shojin so that she can generate more mana. Spark, compared to Static Shiv has 15% win rate versus 14 here, 4-0 versus 4-2. So Shiv is better, but it burns a tier, so usually you're gonna build Spark more. That's why the 28% play rate versus 16. Infinity Edge, yeah, just not good. Like, AD is not great. Jewel Gauntlet, good in stage 6. So good late game, not good early because you need a lot of AP for JG to like really pop off. It's a great third item like on Silco, but not great early. Archangel Staff, really good in the mid game. So like with Renata 3 or Heimer with a Sentinel frontline, very good, but the cap is not that high and falls off in the late game. So win rate is like pretty low relative to other stuff. Stoneplate, the play rate similar to Rageblade is quite high, but the stats are just really bad. The AVP is not good. It's not really great at any stage of the game. Win rate, actually like the lowest win rate along with Rageblade in the game. And it's like not good on Garen and Alawi, who are like two of the most popular tanks, because Garen you want to put in the middle between two other units. You don't solo frontline him. And Alawi already has a ton of armor MR from Sentinel, so you don't really need more armor MR. And then Mundo, you usually play with Scion with Black Rose Dominators. So you usually don't solo frontline Mundo either. So yeah, Stoneplate is just like usually not worth building right now. Nashor's very good on AP units late game as a third item. Very good with Silco if you have like Shojin and Nashor. Shojin also good late game. Although Shojin, we did some analysis like with a Lux or Zyra early game is going to be strong. Morgana, these are strong too. And then blue buff, good mid game with Heimer. Not it like kind of forces you to play very narrow. Jinx is actually quite good with blue buff as well, and then Mel. Mel's stats aren't even that great actually with blue buff. Hand of Justice, it was nerfed, just inferior now for the melee lines. It's quite good on like Mordekaiser and Rumble, which is why this is higher. But for most of the melee lines, Hand of Justice is not very good. QSS, very strong win rate, along with Edge of Night, but it's mainly good in the late game stage 6 when you're facing against a lot of CC, especially if your opponent has Victor and you have like a Violet 3 or 4, you really need QSS or you're like pretty much dead. Sterak's very strong in stage 4, not so strong later. This is just not very good build. BT like solid, Titan solid, not good early though. So these are like gonna be more mid to late games plays because melee is just not gonna be as strong in the early game. All right, that is a much longer analysis than I expected. Again, you can check out my Twitter if you want to be able to see the summary of this analysis. And if you have any questions or comments, additional thoughts that you would add to this analysis, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.